The night before the wedding, Marcus went to see Vivian, his idealized first love. When I cornered him at the hotel, he self-righteously declared, "I was just saying goodbye to my youth. Don't make a big deal out of nothing." The woman behind him looked pitiful, with prominent red marks on her collarbone. Years ago, because of me, Marcus was detained after a fight, and Vivian knelt in the principal's office all day. He always believed Vivian saved his future. Whatever she wanted, he felt he should give unconditionally, including his body. Marcus said, "Grace, don't be unreasonable. After tonight, I'll always be yours." I looked at him in disgust. "Get out. You disgust me. And another thing," I told him, "I was the one who saved you back then." It's always interesting to see how this story will unfold. What rating would you give this story, from 0 to 10? If you like it, feel free to subscribe. The night before the wedding, I received a call from my best friend. She teased me, "Grace, you're getting married tomorrow. Can't you two wait? Pace yourselves, save your energy, or how will you manage the wedding?" I was baffled. "What are you talking about? Don't pretend, I saw you and Marcus check into a hotel room." I looked down at the documents in my hand. With the wedding tomorrow, I'd been working late into the night, not even leaving my study. Marcus, on the other hand, had said he was meeting friends. He'd left without dinner and hadn't returned yet. My eyes narrowed slightly, but my voice remained steady. "Which hotel?" My friend and I rushed to the hotel. Luckily, the hotel owner was one of my business partners, and a quick call revealed Marcus's room details. We hurried to room 808. My friend rang the doorbell. "Who is it?" A woman's voice, soft and refined, answered from within. My friend cleared her throat. "Hello, room service. A complimentary bottle of wine for you." The person inside didn't suspect anything and opened the door directly. As the door swung open, we stood face to face with the woman inside. My friend couldn't help but exclaim, "Vivian? It's you." Vivian's face went pale. She instinctively tried to flee but was held back by my friend. Her nightgown was disheveled, revealing faint red marks on her collarbone and swollen lips, betraying the intensity of the recent activity. The constant sound of running water from the bathroom was jarring. I strode directly into the bathroom. When I saw the familiar male body, something inside me snapped completely. Making a public spectacle was the lowest thing to do. I didn't become hysterical, I just watched them coldly. Marcus, wrapped in a towel, and Vivian sat on opposite sides, both looking guilty and avoiding my gaze. My friend ranted for 20 minutes until she was exhausted, then sat down and drank some water. That's when I spoke, my voice low. "How long have you two been carrying on like this?" Vivian choked out, "Grace, what do you mean? I have manners and self-respect. I would never be a mistress." Marcus glared at me. "Grace, you're going too far. Direct your anger at me, don't humiliate Vivian." He stood there like a protective older brother, as if I were about to harm his beloved woman. I was so angry I laughed. "How did I humiliate her? Did I rip off her clothes and put her in your bed, forcing you to sleep with her?" Marcus looked utterly disgusted. "Grace, you're so vulgar." I sneered, "Is it my words that are vulgar, or your actions? Tomorrow was my wedding, yet my fiancé spent the night with another woman. And after I caught him, he had the nerve to bite back at me." He threw caution to the wind, pulling Vivian into an embrace. "If you hadn't torn Vivian and me apart, we would have been married long ago. The only reason I'm even choosing you now is for your family status and background." He spoke self-righteously, not a shred of guilt on his face. After all these years with him, it felt like I was seeing him for the first time. What did he mean I tore him and Vivian apart? I had no idea they were even together. At this point, dwelling on it was pointless. I said coldly, "I'll let you two have each other. Marcus, take your woman and get out of my house." "You're canceling the wedding?" Marcus stared fixedly at me. "The invitations have all been sent out. If you cancel now, can you really face the embarrassment?" He was right. The entire upper echelon of Riverton society would be attending tomorrow's wedding, along with my parents and all our friends and relatives. If the wedding were cancelled, I couldn't bear the humiliation. What's more, Marcus and I had already obtained our marriage license a week before the wedding. If this scandal got out, I, Grace, would become the biggest laughingstock in Riverton. I remained silent, pondering how to deal with them. Marcus quickly put on his clothes, his tone softening. "Grace, what man doesn't play around? Don't make a big deal out of nothing. I just wanted to get closure on the past. Don't be so petty." Besides, after tonight, I'll forever be yours. Vivian also stated self-righteously, Grace, you snatched Marcus away from me back then. Can't we just say goodbye to our past feelings now? I looked at them coldly. The man was shameless, coveting my family's power yet unable to let go of his first love. The woman was shameless, accepting my family's generosity yet daring to be a mistress and ruin my marriage. Why should I let them get away with this? And I certainly wouldn't let a man manipulate me for the sake of my reputation. In an instant, an idea slowly formed in my mind. I looked at Marcus. Remember to be on time for the wedding tomorrow. Grace, my friend exclaimed, worried. Given my personality, how could I possibly tolerate such a sordid affair? But right now, it seemed like I was truly being manipulated by them. I squeezed my friend's hand and flashed a smile. No matter what, the wedding can't be cancelled. Marcus, tonight is your bachelor party. I'll let you indulge just this once. It's free, so why not take advantage of it? With that, I pulled my friend out of the hotel room. If I stayed any longer, I thought I'd throw up. It wasn't until we were far away that I took out my phone and called the wedding planner. I need to make some changes to tomorrow's wedding. Marcus, Vivian, and I were high school classmates. At that expensive private school, students were either from wealthy families or academic prodigies, but Vivian was an exception. Her father used to be my dad's driver and died in a car accident during a drive. My parents felt sorry for Vivian because she had lost her father, so they decided to sponsor her education until she graduated from college. Vivian and I originally had no connection, but she always tried to ingratiate herself with me, her cautious and pitiable manner always making it seem like I was bullying her. My grades weren't great, so I set my sights on Marcus, who was first in our grade. He came from a poor family and only attended this school for the scholarship. I asked him to tutor me, and Vivian tagged along for the lessons. I always thought their relationship was casual, until one day, the school bully made an inappropriate remark to Vivian, and Marcus rushed out and beat him so badly he ended up in the hospital. The bully's family also had some influence and threatened to have Marcus jailed. I used my family's connections to mediate and get Marcus out. At the same time, I also heard that Vivian had knelt in the principal's office all day, pleading for Marcus. Actually, I also had a crush on Marcus back then. Who wouldn't like a handsome, aloof academic star? But I disdained competing with other girls, so I dropped the idea. After the college entrance exams, Marcus and I got into the same university, while Vivian failed to get admitted. Later, Marcus confessed his feelings to me. I asked him, "Didn't you have feelings for Vivian?" He lowered his head slightly. "I'm grateful she pleaded for me back then, and I stood up for her because we shared a similar fate, nothing more." Since that was the case, I accepted him. We started dating in freshman year of college, and after graduation, he began working at my family's company. Now, we had been together for exactly 9 years. He was now the company's general manager, his achievements undeniable, and after gaining my family's approval, we finally decided to get married. But I never imagined that Marcus had been still entangled with Vivian all this time. Was I not attractive enough? I was prettier than Vivian, richer than her, and had a better figure. Why? The next day, it was almost noon, and the wedding was about to begin. Marcus finally arrived in a hurry. There were dark circles under his eyes, clearly from a night of indulgence, and he still seemed listless. I was standing before a huge mirror, admiring myself in my wedding gown. The holy, pristine white wedding gown, unfortunately, tainted by such a sordid affair. "I'm sorry, I'm late." Marcus offered a perfunctory apology, his nonchalant expression suggesting that his mere presence was a favor to me. I smiled dismissively and ushered him into the dressing room. "Go change into your suit." Marcus glanced at me in surprise. "Grace, aren't you angry anymore?" I said calmly, "Why should I be angry? Vivian is also my friend. What's the harm in letting her have the man she wants for one night?" The disdain in my words for Marcus was too obvious, and he frowned in displeasure. My lips curved into a slight smile, and I continued, "Besides, in senior year of high school, when you were detained for fighting, she pleaded with the principal for a full day and night to get you out. She saved your future, didn't she?" Marcus immediately forgot his displeasure and went along with my words. "Yes, if it weren't for her, where would I be today? Also, you used some tactics back then to make her fail her exams, which made her life miserable all these years. My kindness to her is also atonement for your sins." She only hoped to have me for one night, such a humble request. How could I refuse her? After the wedding today, I'll cut ties with her completely. Grace, can you just pretend nothing happened? I squinted, sizing up Marcus. It seemed that in his heart, Vivian was pure salvation. His goddess. The pure sanctuary of his high school memories. If he knew it wasn't Vivian who got him out back then, but me, I wondered what he would think. Seeing my silence, he said with feigned affection, Grace, from now on, I'll truly love you well. He still carried the scent of another woman, yet he had the audacity to speak of love? I was so angry I laughed. My lips curved into a slight smile. I even helped him straighten his wrinkled clothes, which he'd put on in such a hurry, and said gently, all right. The wedding's about to start. Go change into your suit. Marcus smiled gratefully and suddenly leaned down to kiss me on the cheek. Thank you, Grace. Once he entered the dressing room, the tenderness in my eyes faded, replaced by cold severity. I took out a wet wipe and vigorously scrubbed the spot where he had kissed me. Marcus had overestimated my love for him. From freshman year of college until now, it had been 9 years. He thought I couldn't live without him. But an unfaithful man, to me, was worse than owning a dog. The wedding began. However, there were some changes compared to the original plan. First, I crossed out the groom's parents, relatives, and friends from the guest list. They were all denied entry. All the groomsmen were replaced with my own people. As entered, they confiscated his phone. He looked utterly bewildered when he saw the empty groom's guest seats. I patiently reassured him, it's all right, perhaps there's traffic. Let's proceed as planned. Next, many parts of the ceremony were cut, such as the father walking the bride down the aisle, the exchange of rings between the bride and groom, the groom kissing the bride, and the officiant reading the vows. I walked onto the stage by myself, and the officiant immediately began introducing our identities. He finally realized something was wrong. He whispered, Grace, are you keeping something from me? I smiled at the guests, not bothering to acknowledge him. What do you mean? He grew angry. Everything was fine a moment ago. Why are you acting up again? He rambled on, if it weren't for your family's background, I wouldn't have even considered being with you. You act like a spoiled princess every day, harder to please than anyone. Vivian is kinder and purer than you, and she redeemed me. I turned my gaze, giving him a cold glance. Do you really think that when you were arrested for fighting back then, her kneeling for one night could have gotten you out? Marcus visibly flinched, turning to look at me in disbelief. Grace, what are you talking about? The person you hit was a local magnate. You broke 3 of his ribs. Do you really think he'd just forgive you? Even if Vivian had knelt through the floor, he never would have forgiven you. I let out a scoff and slowly said, let's be clear, it was I who paid $1 million to get you out. Marcus looked as if he'd been doused with a bucket of cold water, his entire body stiffened. Then slowly froze. The officiant had finished introducing our respective identities and relationships and handed the microphone to me. Watching, who seemed to be in a daze, I smiled coldly. Taking the microphone, I began unhurriedly, thank you, distinguished guests, for taking the time to attend my wedding. Of course, the wedding has now been changed to a press conference. The man beside me is Mr. Marcus, the general manager of Vance, and my former fiancé. Last night, Mr. Marcus checked into a hotel room with his ex-girlfriend. Coincidentally, I discovered it. Therefore, today's wedding is cancelled and will instead be a Vance family gathering, and an opportunity for all of you to witness a good show. I raised a hand, and a PowerPoint presentation appeared on the large screen. The content was a series of photos, Marcus and Vivian kissing passionately in the hotel, taken from a window, the two of them intimately entering and exiting the hotel together, and Marcus and Vivian kissing in a car. I let Marcus do as he pleased last night precisely to gather evidence. The photographers I hired were highly professional. They staked out the place all night and got exactly what I wanted. Marcus finally snapped back to reality and tried to snatch the microphone from me, but the officiant blocked him. He roared, Grace, what is the meaning of this? I smiled at him. Can't you tell? It means I'm cutting ties with you completely. How can you be so reckless? I said calmly, my capital allows me to be reckless. After explaining everything to my parents overnight, they expressed their full support. Our precious daughter, whom we never even scolded, why should she be bullied by a man? Grace, whatever you want to do, your mom and dad will support you. Marcus turned and tried to tear down the screen, but the groomsmen I had arranged quickly restrained him. Now, he couldn't even move. I walked closer to him, step by step, raised my hand, and slapped him hard across the face. I said coldly, Marcus, you know perfectly well how I've treated you all these years. Even a dog I raised would know to wag its tail for me. But you took advantage of my resources, then went around messing with other people, and still had the nerve to blame me. I sneered, questioning him, how many times have you and Vivian cursed me over the years? You said I suppressed her, which is why she couldn't get into college. You said I tore you two star-crossed lovers apart? I gripped Marcus's chin, forcing him to look into my eyes. My voice echoed through the venue, every word clear and resonant. My family freely sponsored Vivian's education, creating opportunities for her. Yet she didn't cherish them, only thinking about how to curry favor with me. If she chose to be subservient, how is that my fault? In senior year of high school, I paid for you to tutor me, and Vivian even got free lessons. But she was only focused on dating, and she couldn't get into college herself. How is that my fault? In freshman year of college, you were the one who came to me and confessed your feelings, and you clarified your relationship with her. How is that my fault? You were arrested for fighting, and I spent $1 million to get you out. Is this how you repay me? As I questioned him, his expression grew increasingly guilty, and he finally lowered his gaze. His voice was faint and stammering. It was Vivian. She tricked me. Oh, I questioned him in a low voice. She said it, and you believed her? Do you have no judgment of your own? Right, because you have no moral compass to begin with. Otherwise, how could you be dating me while also carrying on with her? The night before marrying me, you were messing around with her at a hotel. Was it fun? I forcefully slapped the divorce papers onto his chest, then let them scatter across the floor. From today forward, you two despicable individuals, stay far away from me. After thoroughly berating the scoundrel, I turned back to face the guests. A smile returned to my face. Today, in the presence of all you esteemed guests, I am completely severing ties with this scoundrel. I also ask everyone to be careful not to be deceived by Marcus. Furthermore, I, Grace, am publicly seeking a live-in husband, fully integrated into her family's affairs. I am sincerely looking for a righteous, kind, and promising young man. Those interested should contact my assistant. Now, the farce has ended. Please enjoy the food and drinks. After saying that, I picked up my wedding gown and walked off the stage. Marcus tried to follow, but the groomsmen dragged him out. He was no longer useful. Unnecessary people shouldn't be here. Back in the dressing room, I changed out of my wedding gown, relaxed my shoulders, and the makeup artist began removing my makeup. She said, Ms. Grace, you looked especially beautiful today. I let out a long breath. Today's battle was over. Everyone has their unlucky moments, and it's hard to avoid scoundrels, she said as she removed my makeup. Ms. Grace, your way of dealing with that scoundrel was brilliant. It was so satisfying to watch. She sighed, it's just that when things get this big, people will always gossip, and it's annoying to hear. I chuckled, it's fine if it's a big deal. At least it helps other girls avoid this kind of trouble. Just then, the door opened. It was my assistant. She carried a stack of documents and reported, Ms. Grace, Marcus is refusing to sign the divorce papers. I nodded, not surprised in the least. I had expected as much. Marcus wouldn't agree to a divorce so easily. After all, the Vance family had abundant assets and exceptional status. As general manager of Vance, he earned hundreds of thousands annually, and marrying me would grant him luxury villas, high-end cars, and an unparalleled social standing. These material and intangible benefits were among his reasons for choosing me. All in all, Marcus was nothing more than a self-serving hypocrite. I had plenty of ways to deal with hypocrites. On the next workday, news of the wedding farce had spread throughout the entire company. The first thing I did when I entered my office was fire Marcus. He stormed into my office, furious. Grace, you're using your position for personal revenge. I tilted my head, smiling, yes, and what about it? This company is mine. If I want to fire you, who would dare to object? He was speechless for a moment, then muttered, just because I won't agree to the divorce? I tapped on the desk. My company can't keep you. I told him directly that no matter the outcome, he had to leave. But whether he left with a substantial severance package or dragged it out with legal bat, less only to be blacklisted by the entire industry was his choice. Furthermore, your parents' commercial property also belongs to me, and I have the right to reclaim it. After became successful, he brought his parents to live in the city. Fearing they might get bored and also to provide them with security, I transferred ownership of the best commercial property in the bustling downtown area to Marcus's parents. But this transfer came with a precondition, that my marriage remain happy and harmonious. Since betrayed me during our marriage, I had the right to reclaim everything. A smile on my face, my eyes cold, I sat elegantly at my desk, confronting him. Marcus, you know I have many ways. His tone softened considerably as he pleaded, Grace, can you give me a chance to make amends? I scoffed, but you disgust me. He finally came with me to the city clerk's office. The divorce papers clearly stated that my assets were my own and unrelated to him. After signing the divorce papers, the only thing that would belong to him was a small, run-down apartment he had bought for himself in recent years. When it came to signing, I put pen to paper without hesitation. Marcus's hand, however, trembled slightly. He looked up, gazing deeply at me. Grace, I truly love you. Stop talking nonsense and just sign it, I said impatiently. After signing, there was still a 1-month mandatory waiting period for divorce. Leaving the city clerk's office, he was filled with desolation. The company provided him with compensation as stipulated and officially terminated his contract. I also reclaimed all the keys to the car and house. From then on, that person had nothing to do with me. He whispered, shall we go get something to eat? I glanced at him. Other than the day we finalized the divorce papers a month from now, I don't want to see you again. With that, I got into my car and drove straight to the club. My friend said she'd booked 10 male escorts and was treating me to drinks. Perfect. I also needed to thank her for rescuing me from my misery. At Oasis, which my friend managed, a group of male companions surrounded me, massaging my legs and shoulders, feeding me snacks, and telling jokes. This truly was heaven. Just as my friend and I were having a great time, someone approached our booth from behind, taking over from the male companion who had been massaging me. I felt the pressure on my shoulder change, but it was still very comfortable. I just tilted my head back slightly and glanced at the person. He looked familiar. After a moment's thought, I realized it was Julian, the son of Hayes, our biggest competitor. He was already smiling as he said, I hear Ms. Grace is looking for a live-in husband, fully integrated into her family's affairs? I smiled in response, yes. Is Julian planning to abandon Hayes's prestige and marry into Vance? Julian casually replied, that's exactly my intention. Mr. Julian, don't tease. I merely assumed he was here to mock a competitor. But repeated, Ms. Grace, I'm serious. If you're looking for a live-in husband, fully integrated into her family's affairs, consider me. His massaging hands continued to knead my shoulders gently, the pressure just right. He leaned in slightly, his voice a whisper in my ear, Sister, my family is wealthy, you won't need to support me. I'll dutifully wait for you at home and follow your every command. I'm 1,000, even 10,000 times better than Marcus in every way. You could try me. I gasped, a sharp intake of breath. I had no idea the Hayes was so charming. I turned my head for a quick glance, and his face unexpectedly filled my vision. He was quite handsome. I took out a banknote and slipped it into his hand. I'm not fully divorced yet. Contact me after the divorce is finalized. Julian pocketed the banknote, stood up with a smile, and said, then I'll await good news. After leaving the club, I went straight to the company. Julian's overture wasn't as simple as it seemed on the surface. At the very least, it indicated Hayes was interested in collaborating with Vance. For the past decade or more, the two corporations had operated independently, fiercely competing in overlapping business sectors, which had hindered both their development. If we could set aside our animosity and choose to cooperate, it would be a strengthening move for both sides. So I immediately returned to the office and began working, looking for projects where we could collaborate with Hayes, and quickly made arrangements for a preliminary overture. As I expected, within a couple of days, Hayes responded enthusiastically, and they presented a comprehensive project proposal. I seized this opportunity and personally followed up, not necessarily aiming for the collaboration to proceed smoothly. Once work got busy, I had no time to think about anything else. Until one day, my assistant handed me a stack of resumes. My assistant said, half amused, Ms. Grace, don't we need to fill the general position? These are all top talents contacted by headhunters, highly capable, with extensive experience. Would you like to interview them? It was then that I remembered the general position had been vacant since Marcus was fired. I immediately had my assistant arrange interviews. After several rounds, I selected an experienced professional and headhunted him with a high salary. The official company account even issued an announcement about it. Working late into the night, I left the company and returned home to quiet surroundings. Beneath a dimly lit street lamp, a lone figure stood, looking slender and forlorn. I squinted, recognizing him after a moment. Marcus? It was indeed him. His face full of sorrow, he slowly walked and stood before me, asking after a long pause, "Did you hire someone for my position?" So he had seen the official announcement. But what did that have to do with him? I checked the date and said, "There are still 5 days until the mandatory wait. ING period for divorce ends. You're early." Marcus forced a smile uglier than a cry, saying haltingly, with a pleading tone, "Grace, I want to go back on it. Can we not get divorced?" I looked steadily at him. His clothes were wrinkled, and he seemed much more haggard. Most importantly, I remembered that when we were together, I had given him a pure gold pendant, which he always wore and never took off. But now, the cord around his neck was gone. A cold smile played on my lips as I spoke. "If you don't divorce me, how will you marry Vivian?" Just as I expected, he jumped as if a cat had its tail stepped on. At the mention of Vivian, his former tenderness and nostalgia vanished, replaced by seething resentment. His self-proclaimed salvation had decisively abandoned him when he was on the verge of losing everything. It was from Marcus that I learned he had gone to Vivian after we processed the divorce papers. But's reaction had been extremely cold. Furthermore, after one night, she used his phone to transfer his savings, and even took the gold pendant with her. By the time he woke up, she had already flown to another city. He called her to curse her out, but Vivian merely scoffed, "I've been your mistress for so many years. Is it really too much to take some compensation? You provided the money, I provided emotional and physical value. We're even. Marcus, if you want to make a scene, go ahead. At worst, I'll plaster our photos all over your parents' neighborhood and completely ruin their reputation." Marcus was speechless and could only hang up the phone sulkily. Then he came begging to me. As he spoke, he shed tears of self-pity. "I always thought she was my salvation, and I tried everything to be good to her. But it turns out I was blind and mistook the wrong person. I regret it terribly, Grace. I'm such an idiot, a bastard. I was good to that contemptible woman, but I let down your love." He suddenly knelt before me, raising his hand to slap himself. "I was wrong. I was blind, I was foolish, I was arrogant." After slapping himself a dozen times until his face was swollen, he finally stopped, looking up at me piteously. "Grace, can you give me another chance? Anything, as long as we don't get divorced." I watched him coldly, my arms crossed. Not only had Vivian tricked him, but he likely wouldn't find a job either. After all, the scene at the wedding was so public that everyone in Riverton knew his character. Even without my interference, no one would want to hire a man like him. It could only be said that he brought it upon himself. But I hadn't expected him to abandon all his self-respect just to beg for my forgiveness. Unfortunately, I was born with a cold heart. I said calmly, "Once unfaithful, forever untrustworthy." Marcus's voice froze. "Grace, we've been together for 9 years, yes, 9 years together, and that couldn't stop you from doing something disgusting." I sneered, "So don't blame me for not wanting you." Marcus swayed, stumbling to his feet. A flicker of malice crossed his eyes. I caught it keenly and reminded him coldly, "Think carefully about the consequences of your actions. Even if you're not afraid, aren't your parents?" He came from a humble background, and his parents were what he cared about most. After he made his way, he brought them here. When people have a weakness, they won't go all out. Thus, the malice flashed and vanished. He regained his composure and stumbled away. Losing material possessions wasn't important, really. If he could let go of his pride and take his parents back to their hometown, he could still start over. I just didn't know if he could abandon his pride. I calmly watched his retreating figure and said, "In 5 days, remember to come with me to finalize the divorce." His figure paused for a moment. He must have heard me. The next day marked the official establishment of the partnership between Vance and Hayes. Julian arrived at our company as a representative, and we held a ribbon-cutting and photo session witnessed by reporters. At the moment of the photo, a dark shadow streaked past the high-rise window. Soon, there was a loud thud as a heavy object hit the ground. Everyone's faces immediately turned to panic. My assistant rushed to find out what happened. When she returned to report, her face was drained of color. She whispered in my ear, "Ms. Grace, someone committed suicide by jumping from the building. It was Marcus." My eyes narrowed sharply. Knowing he had lost everything, did he choose this way to protest against me? To stain Vance with a public opinion crisis by his death? How naive he was. I turned and instructed, "Contact the reporters and tell them to avoid reporting on this as much as possible. Also, have them recirculate the news from last month about me publicly berating the scoundrel at my wedding." My assistant looked at me admiringly and immediately went to carry out the task. Today's netizens have a very sound moral compass. As long as the public remembers that Marcus cheated first, even if he committed suicide by jumping now, no one would applaud in sympathy. I slowly walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down. The body on the ground hadn't been cleared yet. The glaring red almost filled my vision. A chill ran through me. "Marcus, you want to threaten me with your death?" "No way." Suddenly, a bright red banknote appeared beside me. I turned to see Julian holding $100 bill, winking at me. "Ms. Grace, you're single now. I've brought my token to offer myself. For the live-in husband position, can you consider me?" It suddenly dawned on me, I hadn't finalized the divorce, but now I was technically widowed. I still had to handle Marcus's funeral arrangements. After all, I was still his wife. I arranged a simple service and handed his ashes over to his parents. The two elderly parents cried heartbrokenly, but they held no resentment towards me. After all, in the 9 years I was with Marcus, I never wronged him in the slightest. While I was handling the funeral arrangements, Julian would occasionally show up to make his presence known. It seemed he was very serious about the live-in husband position and was genuinely applying for it. After some thought, I gave him an important task. Julian haggled, "If I do this for you, does that mean I can become the live-in husband?" I rolled my eyes. I might consider a 3-month trial period first. I wasn't interested in Julian, but I was interested in the Hayes. If being with him meant gaining the support of the Hayes, I was willing to use marriage as a tool. Julian immediately went off to do it enthusiastically. He was highly effective. Within 2 days, he sent me the information I wanted, Vivian's whereabouts. The family assets she had tricked Marcus out of also belonged to me. How could I just stand by and watch her spend my money? 3 days later, as Vivian was shopping at a mall, 2 police officers appeared out of nowhere and handcuffed her directly. "Vivian, you are suspected of theft. You are now being lawfully arrested." Vivian was panicked and helpless. Only after seeing my figure did she seem to snap awake. "It's you." I smiled at her. "Yes, it's me. Marcus was my legal husband. Since you stole his assets, I, as his legal heir, am lawfully filing a lawsuit against you." "I didn't, he gave it to me willingly. It has nothing to do with me." No matter how she yelled and struggled, she was taken away by the police. Vivian and I were old acquaintances, in a way. Although we hadn't been in touch since college. But I always knew she was jealous of me. Seducing, deceiving him with lies to win his heart, it all stemmed from her jealousy. She hid in the shadows, secretly plotting to ruin my marriage and my happiness, wanting to see me in agony. In my busy, fulfilling life, love was just a tiny, insignificant part. Without love, I still had friendships, family, and my career. I simply didn't have time to cry over love. But she, on the other hand, had to take responsibility for her actions. After was arrested, the transfer records and the pure gold pendant with her fingerprints became irrefutable evidence of her theft. Furthermore, because her theft led to Marcus's suicide by jumping from a building, causing severe consequences, and given the large sum involved, she was sentenced to 10 years. After the verdict, she refused to accept it and filed an appeal. She even had someone contact me, wanting to see me and apologize in person. I knew she wanted to gain my forgiveness to reduce her sentence. I didn't agree to meet her. How many years she was sentenced was her business, not mine. What I needed to do now was seize the opportunity to strengthen the ties between Vance and Hayes and achieve mutual success. That day, my parents asked me to come home for dinner. After finishing my work, I hurried home. As soon as I entered, a pleasant aroma wafted through the air. My parents were reading newspapers in the living room and greeted me warmly when they saw me. I glanced into the kitchen. "Who's cooking?" "That's me." Julian, wearing an apron, poked his head out, smiling gently and pleasantly. "Just one more dish to go. Why don't you wash your hands and rest for a bit?" My mom lightly tapped my forehead. You little rascal, you've only been single for a few days, and you've already found someone new? But then she laughed. Still, this son-in-law is quite good. Soon, the dishes were on the table. Julian naturally sat beside me and put a piece of meat on my plate. You must be hungry. Try my cooking. My mom watched us, smiling, and suddenly asked, when are you two getting married? The dinner table suddenly went quiet. Julian also looked at me expectantly. I tasted the dishes he made. They truly were delicious. Whether viewed from my parents' expectations or the perspective of corporate cooperation, marrying him seemed like a good choice. I nodded. Any time. As for feelings, we see and develop them slowly.